What if the person standing behind the pulpit every Sunday was hiding a secret no one could see? And what if the person sitting in the front row, quiet, smiling, devoted, was living a life no one would believe? On March 22, 2006, in the small town of Selmer, Tennessee, a pastor didn't show up for church. That might not sound unusual, but for Matthew Winkler it was. And by the end of that day, one man would be dead, a wife would be under arrest, and a faith community would never be the same again. This is the story of the Matthew Winkler murder case. Selmer, Tennessee is the kind of town where people wave from their front porch, where churches are full on Sunday mornings, where pastors are trusted. Matthew Winkler was the minister at the 4th Street Church of Christ, soft-spoken, educated, respectable. He had recently moved to Selmer with his wife Mary and their 3 young daughters. To the congregation, they were the picture of a Christian family. But on March 22nd, something felt wrong. Matthew missed a scheduled church event. Phone calls went unanswered. Concern grew. Eventually, church members went to the Winkler home. What they found shocked them. Matthew Winkler was dead. He had been shot in the back, inside his own house. There were no signs of forced entry, and his wife and daughters were gone. When police arrived, the scene raised more questions than answers. There was no break-in, no struggle that suggested an outside attacker. But Mary Winkler and the children were nowhere to be found. That changed everything. An alert was issued. Authorities began searching for the missing family. Later that day, Mary was located in Alabama at a beach resort with the 3 girls. She was arrested. At first, she didn't speak much, but eventually, she admitted she had shot her husband. The town of Selmer couldn't believe it. The pastor's wife? The quiet woman who sat beside him in church? As investigators looked deeper, a different story began to surface. Mary told police the shooting happened during an argument. She claimed Matthew had been emotionally and physically abusive for years. She said he controlled her, criticized her, demanded obedience. According to her statements, on the morning of the shooting, an argument escalated. She said she feared him. She grabbed a shotgun, and she fired. Matthew Winkler was shot once in the back. He died in their bedroom. But here's where the case became complicated, because the prosecution saw it differently. They argued this was not self-defense. They argued Mary had other motives. Investigators discovered financial irregularities connected to Matthew. He had reportedly taken money from church accounts and used it improperly. If exposed, it could have ruined his career. Some prosecutors suggested Mary may have discovered this and panicked, or that tensions in the marriage had reached a breaking point. When the trial began in 2007, the courtroom was packed. The case had gained national attention. A pastor murdered, a wife claiming abuse, a church divided. Mary Winkler took the stand. Her voice was soft, almost childlike. She described years of humiliation. She said Matthew criticized her cooking, her parenting, her body. She claimed he forced her into sexual acts she was uncomfortable with. The courtroom was silent as she spoke. For many watching, this was the first time they considered the possibility that the man they admired may have lived a different life at home. But the prosecution pushed back. They argued that even if there were marital problems, shooting someone in the back while they were walking away was not self-defense. They emphasized the physical evidence. They questioned why she drove to Alabama afterward. Why not call police? Why not report abuse earlier? The trial wasn't just about one gunshot. It became about credibility, about trust, about what happens inside private marriages that no one else sees. After days of testimony, the jury reached a verdict. Not first-degree murder, not second-degree murder. Mary Winkler was found guilty of voluntary manslaughter. That meant the jury believed the killing happened in the heat of passion, not premeditated murder. She was sentenced to 3 years in prison, but she served only 67 days behind bars before being released to serve the rest of her sentence in a mental health facility. For some, that felt like justice. For others, it felt unthinkable. A pastor was dead, and his wife would walk free in less than 3 months.
The impact on the church was deep. Members were divided. Some believed Matthew was a victim of a calculated killing. Others believed Mary had been trapped in an abusive marriage. The 4th Street Church of Christ never fully recovered from the shock. Attendance dropped. Trust was shaken. People questioned how something like this could happen without anyone noticing. But that's the part that still lingers. No one really knows what a marriage looks like from the inside. Not friends, not church members, not even family sometimes. The Matthew Winkler case forced people to confront an uncomfortable truth. Spiritual leadership does not guarantee private virtue, and public smiles do not prove private peace. To this day, opinions are split. Some see Mary Winkler as a battered spouse who finally snapped. Others see her as a woman who chose violence instead of seeking help. There are still debates about the evidence, about the fairness of the sentence, about what truly happened in that bedroom. But one fact remains. A man lost his life. 3 children lost their father. And a community lost its sense of certainty. This wasn't just a murder case. It was a mirror. It reflected the complicated realities of domestic relationships. It exposed the pressure placed on families and faith communities to appear perfect. It showed how quickly reputation can collapse. And it reminded everyone watching that truth is rarely simple. The Matthew Winkler case still gets discussed because it touches something deeper than crime. It touches trust, power, faith. And the question we never like asking: how well do we really know the people we look up to? If this story made you think, I want to hear your perspective. Do you believe this was a tragic act of desperation, or something more calculated? Leave your thoughts in the comments, respectfully. If you value true crime stories that focus on facts, nuance, and the human side of these cases, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next story might challenge what you think you know. And sometimes, the most shocking truths are the ones hiding in plain sight.